Since this COVID pandemic started, the Supreme Court has issued temporary orders to cover kind of what's been going on and has allowed to make changes. One of the things that they have done is they have allowed the suspension of rules that require the attendance of defendants in court. And I don't believe that that applies to actual trials. But, it used to be that you were required to appear in court for your arraignment. It used to be that you were required to appear for these various functions. The Supreme Court has told us during the pandemic, you're not required to do that. Now, I fully expect at some point in the future that will, once all this is passed, we'll go back and defendants will have to appear in court for arraignment. They will have to do various things. But even when we go back to that point, there's still a lot of things that can be done virtually that will save a lot of time and watch.
And risk.
And risk.
Can we ask a question? Or,
Absolutely.
I used to install Polycom systems in university settings 20 years ago. So obviously that company's been around a long time. What's preventing or what's stopping like a Zoom meeting now? Is it the risk?
We do Zoom meetings right now. The reason that we are looking at a more comprehensive system. So right now we have a laptop with a stable internet connection in the jail library. And that's how we do our jail dockets. We do mass call dockets in either Zoom or WebEx. The problem is that it's extraordinary latency. So number one, both Zoom and much less so WebEx are liable to be hacked or compromised. So we have that. Trying to deal with a large-scale docket where you're like, all right, everybody be quiet. I'm going to unmute everybody. And if your name is this, then say something. It creates a lot of havoc and is incredibly inefficient.
You don't think the Polycom will do the same?
No, I don't. It
Well,
allows.
and here's probably why, and Sean's a TV guy, so
Yeah, I've hacked the Polycom system.
if you come to one of our dockets, and we have no televisions in the courtroom, there are no cameras, there are security cameras, but no cameras for any video conferencing or anything. When I run a virtual docket in my courtroom on WebEx or Zoom, I have it on my iPad in front of me on the bench. No one else in the courtroom can see it. And the only way I can get people in the courtroom to hear what's on my iPad is to put a microphone next to it.
Yeah.
The only way that people on the iPad can hear anybody in the courtroom is if I bring a speaker over and put it next to the iPad.
I get that.
And then we get a bunch of feedback from it. And the system, the proposal at least of the system is it's a much more functional to allow everybody to participate, everybody to be able to appear, and it's more efficient. The reason that Polycom has become, I don't know why Polycom became the standard. I don't. And I'll tell you, quite honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Polycom. I never have been. I've used Polycom for years as a juvenile judge, and it's a pain in the butt. But for whatever reason, the Department of Corrections uses only Polycom. You have no other option. If you want to be able to communicate with the Department of Corrections and reach inmates in prison, you have to have a Polycom system.
It's an example of the free market not working. That's why I didn't know why the Zoom or things like that have been pushed to a free market type setting, been tested, wouldn't. I mean, obviously you're going to save money. I mean, I am totally for what you guys are proposing.
And I'll tell you, this system, we asked these questions specifically at the presentation, this system can utilize Zoom. It can utilize WebEx. It can utilize all those programs. But it's all run through a Polycom camera and a Polycom system. They can utilize Zoom and WebEx, but we just have to have the Polycom system to be able to talk to the DOC.
And part of that as well is within the jail. So right now, like I said, we have one station for Zoom, and that's sufficient. And it has been, except for one or two times. But especially as we tend to get back more towards normal, or frankly, when the backup just gets too bad, it's not uncommon for us to run 4 courtrooms at a time. And when we asked, is it possible to put more laptops down there? The answer is no. It's a security concern. It's a problem with protecting the equipment. It's an acoustics concern. And so part of the equipment that they have here are self-contained boxes that are directly hardwired to the court. The good thing about the boxes, one, they're secured. Two, they can be utilized as well for visitation between defendants and their attorneys when they're not in court. So it helps. Right now, I know we have a potential backup. I've heard from the defense bar, it's harder for them to access their clients because they have concerns about contraction and things of that nature. So it would further facilitate that. A lot of this is, well, like Judge Hamner said, it's not about the Polycom software. And I echo Judge Hamner's sentiments. Polycom software is not perhaps the best, and we've been using successfully Zoom even more than WebEx. But this equipment is secure. It will support any new platform that comes through to conference, and can use those and conference them in together, which is really nice. But the equipment itself works together throughout all this. Will allow us to communicate with DOC. Will allow us to communicate with other jails throughout the system, throughout the state. And allows us not only on this, but then using it as a courtroom in a live setting. Apart from just communication, when we're talking about trials and hearings, it also enables the sharing of documents for the judge to preview those, for them to be annotated to the jury. Things that are normal for a first-class county courtroom. Right now, when I travel with a nice projector and my own equipment because a lot of our courtrooms are not as nice as the jury courtrooms we have here, and they don't have those capabilities, but that's what juries expect, and that's what, frankly, most attorneys expect when they're going in. The days of cardboard posters or chalkboards or flip charts are gone in modern day litigation.
Yeah, but I mean, the Polycom system is basically a unit with a camera and a microphone, and you can get 100 microphones put in a room. You could get where you can mute the buttons, hit the power, right? I mean, that's the system you're talking about. That's why I'm just, because I mean, for $79 you could buy a tablet and load the software. Somebody else, $79, so $140. You have a system that communicates to each other. So I didn't know what, but you guys are going to save money, obviously, by transportation cost. I mean, we should have been here 20 years ago, right? I mean,
Yeah, and it's, it is, and you're more than welcome to take a look at the proposals. It's more complex than a laptop and a stable internet. This is talking about microing the entire courtrooms and, like I said, the hardware in the jail. But yeah, these could all be assembled individually, but then it doesn't solve our problem with the OC.
And I'll just throw in at the end of that, some of the proceeding, security is important, and it's not just because we don't want people seeing what's going on in court, but it's because some of the proceedings that we conduct are closed. Some of the proceedings that we may need to conduct via WebEx are not to be open to the public. Certain juvenile proceedings, adoption proceedings, things like that could potentially utilize. I think that's why OSCA, which is the Office of State Courts Administrator in the Supreme Court, always has an eye towards security when they're installing these systems. You ask why aren't we using Zoom more? It's just because they haven't vetted. You know how the government is. I'm still using Lotus Notes email. Our state uses Lotus Notes email still for all of my email. That Lotus Notes was state of the art 20 years ago, but they still use it because they vetted it, they're comfortable with it, and that's what and that's just the government.
I think Jimmy is really right.
So I have some questions.